Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. On today's program, I want to talk about the whore of Babylon, as described by St. John in the book of Revelation. And I want to answer all those false prophets who claim that the whore of Babylon is the Catholic Church. And some of them say that the whore of Babylon is Israel. Neither of these prophecies is correct. The whore of Babylon is our own United States of America, as well as the nation of England. And in fact, Babylon represents all of the entire decadent West. Basically, Babylon is capitalism. And the whore of Babylon is going to be burned with fire by the scarlet beast she rides. And the scarlet beast she rides is international communism. Now let's look at the first of four locations which will help us understand who the whore of Babylon really is. In Revelation, St. John describes Babylon as having four different locations: her physical, spiritual, mental, and geopolitical location. First, let's look at Babylon's physical or geographical location. In chapter 17, St. John writes, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore," that is Babylon, "that sits upon many waters." Now this waters can be a literal translation, meaning the island nations of England, the United States, and many other capitalist countries, or it can mean what the angel says, and that is that capitalism sits upon many waters, peoples, nations, and tongues. Either way, the capitalist nations of the world are a perfect description of the whore of Babylon. Notice this word judgment. That indicates that this will be God's judgment on America and the rest of the West. So why should God exact an extreme punishment upon America and the West? St. John enumerates our three main sins as abortion, greed, and the occult. St. John says that it is our weakness of spirit that will cause God's judgment on our own decadent society. Now let's look at Babylon's spiritual location. In verses 2 and 3, St. John writes, "The inhabitants of the earth are made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness." The spirit here means this is Babylon's spiritual location, in the wilderness or the desert, or perhaps a wasteland is a better translation. All those words have been used to describe the spiritual decline of the West. Notice the word fornication here. Literally, this would mean that we have many sexual crimes, and certainly that is the case. Or if you take the symbolic meaning for fornication, that means we have abandoned our Christian heritage, and that also is certainly true. We've seen that Babylon/capitalism is a worldwide system. That is, geographically, it rests upon many waters, peoples, nations, and tongues. And spiritually, we've discovered that capitalism is in a moral wasteland, or desert. But does Babylon understand her condition? What is her mental state of mind? In chapter 18, St. John describes the mental condition of Babylon. She says, "In her heart I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." This is a perfect description of Americans, who have no concept of what it would mean to lose World War III. But America will lose World War III, and we will lose our regal authority. There will be many widows, widowers, and orphans, and we definitely will see sorrow. We've seen the mental, physical, and spiritual characteristics of Babylon. Now let's look at her geopolitical location. Because St. John said she sits a queen and has dominion over the kings of the earth. You really have to stretch your interpretation of Revelation to say that Babylon symbolizes the Catholic Church or Israel or some other religious entity. Babylon can only be capitalism, because it is our capitalist G7 nations that rule the world, militarily and economically. And St. John continues writing about Babylon. And I saw a woman sitting upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We need to understand that this act of sitting does not describe Babylon's physical location. We already know that she is located upon many peoples, nations, languages, and tongues. This act of sitting symbolizes her control over the scarlet-colored beast, namely communism. Notice that this beast has names of blasphemy. That refers to the atheistic characteristic of communism. And the scarlet beast has 7 heads, which the angel explains stands for 7 hills. Now the false prophets assume that the 7 hills indicate that the woman is sitting on the city of Rome. But the 7 hills belong to the scarlet-colored beast, not to Babylon. That's because the headquarters of international communism, that is the scarlet-colored beast, will move to Rome following World War III. Now there are a lot of bad things you can accurately say about the Catholic Church. After all, even one of Jesus' 12 apostles was a Judas. But notice that the false prophets zero in on claiming that Babylon is the Catholic Church. That's because Satan does not want you to understand who Babylon really is. We need to understand that when Babylon is burned with fire, that means America and all of capitalism will lose World War III. Now, if you would like more information, simply write to the address you see on your screen.